Welcome to Arlington Public News. I'm Carla Dorado.
And I'm Paul Werlin. Thanks for joining us. In this edition of APN, Whittemore Park is the center of attention. A summer beer garden and future improvements. Increased flooding, heat waves, and hurricanes. Arlington's plans for climate change resilience.
And 2 Arlington elementary schools are taking their education to the bank.
That and more next. Stay with us. The school year may be winding down for kids across town, but increased enrollment numbers have the administration and staff scrambling. And is Arlington ready to welcome a summer beer garden to Whittemore Park? Brenda Mahoney has the stories in tonight's Snapshot. Hi, Brenda. There's a lot going on right now in Arlington.
Yes, Paul, school enrollment numbers continue to climb in Arlington. On June 8th, Superintendent Kathleen Bodie reported to the school committee that kindergarten enrollment now stands at 571 students. That's up more than 10% from the 500 student estimate calculated during the January budgeting process. The increased numbers mean adding more elementary classrooms in several of Arlington's schools. The Stratton and Bishop elementary schools will add 1 kindergarten class each, and the Pierce School will keep the kindergarten class that was added last year, but considered temporary. Dallin Elementary will add a kindergarten through 1st grade section, and Thompson Elementary will add a 5th grade class. Each of the new kindergarten classes will also be adding full-time teaching assistants, a change from part-time assistants that was approved late last year due to class sizes topping out at around 25 students.
We can find the space this year for these kindergarten classes, but if this pattern continues and these classes are going to become 1st graders and are going to move through each of the schools, and we have additional large sections in future years, the space is going to be an issue, for sure. And that's something I think that we need to take a look at. And we probably need to take another look at buffer zones. People want to come here to live in Arlington and to go to school in the Arlington Public Schools. And that is very affirming and good news. Our challenge is to make sure that the same quality education and that we have very welcoming and well-supported spaces and teachers in those classrooms. And that is what we'll be working on.
The school committee is set to approve a $72.4 million budget at their June 21st meeting. That's 8.25% more than last year's budget. Money for the additional teachers and assistants, as well as classroom furniture and materials, will come from increased funding from the state that had been set aside for a secondary list of priorities that will now go unfulfilled. Economic development, greater visibility for the Arts and Cultural District, and increased foot traffic in Arlington Center are behind a proposal to bring a beer garden to Whittemore Park this summer. The Department of Planning and Economic Development presented the idea to the Select Board at its meeting on June 11th. The Saturday and Sunday beer garden would be run by the Somerville craft brewer Aeronaut. The brewer was behind the successful beer garden held during Town Day last fall. The proposed operating hours for the garden are noon to 8 p.m. on Saturdays and noon to 7 p.m. on Sundays throughout the summer. Aeronaut plans to bring in a variety of musical groups to play on a regular basis. Concerns include the impact on local restaurants, loss of access to the park during the weekend to a private enterprise, and the question of the town's economic return from the venture.
I love how they want to work with local people, like totally behind that, but I think that we need to consider parking, bike parking, the bathrooms, and so I want that to be a little on your radar screen. It is a public space, and this is taking 2 weekend days to make it essentially not open to the public.
Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine and Selectman Joe Curo recognized both the concerns and the opportunity.
I fully acknowledge this is sort of very, very new for Arlington, but I also think I've been saying to people that there's always a lot of desire for bringing people into town, into the center to patronize businesses, and that we have to consider new and innovative things to try to get people into town. So
the more we're able to promote this as a cultural event sponsored by Aeronaut, I think the better, in my view, better it fits into our cultural district push and all of that.
So this is a permit application right now.
Permit.
I think another thing that we need to come back with at the next meeting is what a reasonable permit fee is for the use of the space and the issuance of the license.
The proposal comes up for a vote by the Select Board at their June 25th meeting. And Carla, you've got more on Whittemore Park?
That's right, Brenda. It's not just beer and music that could be coming to Whittemore Park. The entire park itself could be getting a facelift. New pathways to form a common area and an amphitheater for concerts are being proposed by the town. APN's Kristen Schroeder has a look at the plan and how the public is part of the conversation.
Whittemore Park, a historic site that besides the Dallin Museum is perhaps best known for sitting empty. However, a new design team, hired by the town, is trying to change that.
Yes, I was just going to say the tracks, you want them more prominent, or people want them more prominent. Yes.
June 13th's Design Day in the Park was the second public information session on redeveloping the often overlooked piece of land that sits beside the busy intersection of Massachusetts Avenue and Mystic Street. The aim? To make it a more usable and inviting public space.
That was really the number one thing, is about gathering, a gathering space. That's not, say, sidewalk, that is a park, that is an open space.
We'd like to kind of recreate that old town common type of feel.
Fixing some of the issues with erosion and the roots of the trees.
Trying to save the best trees in this plan and taking out the trees that arborists have told us are failing anyway.
So when you go down to this corner here, you'll see that we're proposing a set of stairs, amphitheater style with a set of stairs in the center, to land down in a plaza.
The idea to update the park comes out of the Planning Department's Mass Ave Phase 2 redevelopment project. It calls for state funds to rework the streetscape and patches of green dotting the center. The house and grounds on Whittemore Park are on the National Register of Historic Places, and the park qualified for Community Preservation Act funds, $65,000 for the initial design study. Often asked if they should stay or go, the railroad tracks that run through the park are a contributing resource to the National Register. Because of that, landscape architect Crowley Cottrell plans to rework them into a pathway while highlighting the role they once played in town.
We want to preserve the railroad tracks and actually give them even more prominence. And so what we're trying to do is anchor this corner with a plaza so that the tracks feel more like part of the urban fabric rather than part of a residential fabric, which is the house and trees and lawn and plantings.
Town developers are making sure they incorporate community input.
Feedback that we've received actually from 515 people as part of a community survey have indicated that they wish that they could use the park more if we looked at some of the amenities, if we addressed some of the issues that are sometimes barriers to people's enjoyment in the park.
The Arlington Chamber of Commerce, representing Arlington Center businesses, says they are hopeful the plan will revitalize the area.
Businesses just want foot traffic, and so anything that we can do to create foot traffic in different parts of town is going to be a positive for the businesses.
The final design is set to be revealed during a public forum on Wednesday, June 20th. Kristen Schroeder, Arlington Public News.
Once the Whittemore Park plan is approved, the town would then seek funding to rebuild it. Funding could come from the town's capital budget or from the CPA tax. Planning and Community Development Director Ginny Raitt says construction wouldn't begin until next summer at the earliest. So how do you feel about a little beer garden? I personally think it would be a lovely idea to try.
Well, you're a business owner in town, so what do you think?
You know, I think anything that brings new faces and people to the center is a great idea, you know, and they're proposing to feature nonprofit groups, they're proposing live music. And as a part of the cultural district, I think that's really important that we start bringing events like this to help enhance the district.
Well, there are people on both sides of the opinion, so we'll see how it turns out after the vote on the 25th.
Get your reusable bags ready. Plastic Bag Ban Part 2 is about to begin. That and more when we come back.
Want to learn what it takes to create your own movies? Join us at ACMi Summer Filmmaking Bootcamp. No experience needed. We'll cover all the fundamentals from story writing, directing, hands-on camera and lighting techniques, and editing. At the end of the course, you'll team up to make a final film for public screening. On June 26th, 6 p.m., it's our kickoff event. And then all Tuesday from July 10th to July 31st from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., we'll have our boot camp. On August 7th is our public film screening. Contact production at acmi.tv or call 781-777-1115 to sign up. $40 course fee includes annual membership. See you there.
Arlington is one of 24 cities and towns across the Commonwealth recently awarded grants for projects that improve resilience to climate change. The $399,000 grant will be used to develop and implement safe flood prevention measures in the Millbrook corridor. APN reporter Sophia Jeanette brings us this report.
Climate change is increasing the frequency of destructive and extreme weather here in Arlington. In an effort to prepare for present and future climate-related hazards, the town of Arlington enrolled in the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, a statewide program that awards communities with funding to complete climate change vulnerability assessments and develop action-oriented resiliency plans. A public meeting was held at the Senior Center on June 11th, summarizing the town's participation in the program thus far.
Last year, Arlington received a $23,000 Phase 1 grant, or a planning grant, from the state to examine our strengths and vulnerabilities regarding weather-related hazards, and to create a series of recommendations for addressing our vulnerabilities.
With this grant, the Arlington Department of Planning and Community Development and a core group of 11 Arlington town staff members and residents organized a 2-day workshop with community stakeholders.
The goal of the workshop was to hear the perspectives of the stakeholders about Arlington's strengths, vulnerabilities, and action steps and solutions.
At the conclusion of the workshop, participants compiled lists of specific categories of concerns and challenges, as well as recommended steps the town should take to improve climate change resilience.
So the first one was Millbrook. That came up as one of our highest priorities in the whole town because of the flooding which occurs and the impacts that it has through many, many parts of town.
Throughout the Community Resilience Building workshop, Millbrook was identified as an area of high concern. Millbrook stretches for almost 3 miles and abuts over 100 private properties. The brook acts as a floodway for the Arlington Reservoir and often floods during rainfall events and when the water level in the reservoir rises, damaging private and public property along its banks. Unstable shorelines and the presence of trash and natural debris often obstructs the flow of water, leading to damaging flooding events. However, Millbrook also has the potential to be a great asset in Arlington's climate change resilience development.
We talked about the need for flood control, which was mentioned before, but besides the need for flood control, also the opportunity for improved recreation and access to nature, ecological restoration, which of course helps mitigate heat island effects, improves water quality. We also talked about bank restoration.
Following the completion of the Community Resilience Building workshop, the town of Arlington became eligible to apply for Municipal Vulnerability Program Action Grant funding.
And we had a final meeting of what would be the one thing we would want to implement. If we were going to write another grant, what would be the one thing we'd want to do? And we all came up with the Millbrook corridor improvements because we thought that it hit more of the climate change resilient issues that were important to the town. Flood control, water quality, heat island mitigation because you're doing ecological restoration.
The town's grant application for the development and implementation of ecologically sensitive flood management measures in the Millbrook corridor was approved.
Now there were lots of contingencies on what we could use the money for and how it had to be matched. So there's a 25% match that has to come from the town, and all the money that they give us, which will be released in the next few weeks, has to be spent within a year.
The funding will be used to build on a current initiative led by the Mystic Watershed Association. The next phase of this initiative will begin in July. Sophia Giannetti, Arlington Public News.
The Millbrook corridor is also the focus of work by the Mystic River Watershed Association in collaboration with several departments in the town. The project's goals is to create a more welcoming environment around the brook and improve the brook's health. Here's a look at the project from a segment we brought you last spring.
What's here in dormant stages right now is a lot of invasive plant species. which are choking out native species and don't provide a lot of ecological value. You also have this old chain link fence. You can see trees growing into it. In addition to not being attractive, it's also choking out some of the native trees that are growing here. And then when you look a little bit closer into the brook, there are some degraded, cemented side banks of the river, which are not your typical ecologically valuable planted natural edges. So those are some of the issues that we're trying to address with this project, is both one, open up access so people can see the brook and interact with it, and also improve the quality of the environment along the banks and adjacent to the banks.
The project is currently gathering input from abutters and community members before moving forward.
Have you gotten used to paper bags at Stop and Shop, Walgreens, and Trader Joe's? You'll be seeing a lot more of them around town in the next few weeks. The two-phase plastic ban passed by town meeting in 2017 is about to enter phase 2. As of March 1st, larger stores, those over 10,000 square feet, eliminated plastic shopping bags at checkout. Smaller stores must begin using only paper bags on Sunday, July 1st. The two-phase rollout was designed to help smaller stores use up their inventory of plastic bags and find alternatives. According to massgreen.org, there are 80 cities and towns across Massachusetts with plastic bag regulations in place. Cambridge, Somerville, and Brookline have put the ban into place within the last 3 years. According to Arlington Public Health Director Natasha Waden, the new bylaw will promote recycling and reduce pollution in Arlington. Paper bags will be available at Arlington retailers at no cost, but shoppers are encouraged to bring their own reusable bags. Remember, that's Sunday, July 1st.
Well, Carla, what do you use at the Artful Heart where you work?
Well, you know what? Actually, I've always used paper, so for me the transition is very, very easy. I understand from some of my neighbors it's a little more difficult. They deal in books and food, so they've had to sort of rethink things a little bit more.
I think it's a good thing. You know, in Europe, most people, I think everybody basically uses their own bags that they bring to the grocery store. You don't really see any plastic bags.
You have
whatsoever.
to bring your bags,
you have to bring your bags.
You have no choice, so I guess we got to get on the ball.
Yeah, it's good. Sports Etc. in Arlington Heights is celebrating a hat trick with an expansion, high tech, and some special visitors.
That and more when we come back.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it. When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director here, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for.
And to see you makes me proud.
I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
According to the financial news service CNBC, 39% of Americans have no savings at all, and almost 60% have less than $1,000 put away. Students at the Pierce and Brackett elementary schools are bucking the trend. School banks are teaching the benefits of savings in a very hands-on way. APN reporter Gregory Bartlett brings us the story.
Inside the Pierce Elementary School, as well as the Brackett Elementary School, are banks where students learn how to set up and manage savings accounts. School banks have been running at Pierce for 20 years and at Brackett for 32 years. Cambridge Savings Bank has partnered with the schools to help manage the school accounts.
There have been studies that show that people that save from an early age are more successful with their finances throughout their lives. So it's a really, really central skill to develop at a young age, and we're really happy to be able to give a practical way for students to do that.
There are three different sections to the bank. The first section, the bankers just will find the account card and fill it in. The second section, the next kids, they will do the deposit slip and check the math of the first one. And then the customer brings both cards to the booth where it actually gets deposited. And again, they check the math to make sure everything is correct.
Today I'm working in the booth, which is when we basically look over all the other work and then we look inside their banker's book and add what they brought in inside of it.
Miss Cooper, there's a mistake here.
I think it's because of the interest, or should I?
Yeah, so you need to add the interest. Go ahead and just put it on this same line. Don't make another line. You can just write it, because here's the interest column. Yeah.
Okay, there's another mistake.
Students really learn a solid lesson of why it's so important to save, that they'll be able to afford their future needs, and they'll even be in a position to be able to help others by being generous.
It teaches the kids about money and how to save money and how to earn money, and it's exciting to see it grow. Some kids will bring in $2, or some kids will bring in $20 every week. So it grows eventually.
I do chores every week and I get $20 put in. I learned that it can be very slow and hard.
When I had a birthday or a first communion, I'd get money, and half of it I'd use to spend, and half of it I'd put in the bank.
Anything that you can teach them about how real life works, and how doing this has a positive consequence.
Not only do students learn about banking, they also build social connections.
I like how we get to see some of the kids that we go to school with, and then it's friendly. But we also get to meet new people in a way that we recognize each other, and I like doing that.
Greg Bartlett, Arlington Public News.
Last newscast, we brought you a story on redeveloping the Heights. The town is looking to reinvigorate the area and attract businesses in light of storefront vacancies. Well, one business has a different perspective. They are expanding. Sports Etc. is scoring top shelf with its focus on hockey. APN's Sam Backerman has the story that includes a visit by a couple of Bruins players.
Sticks and skates are the two biggest sale items for hockey, and we felt confined with the space we had and had an opportunity to do a build out to give it its own domain as far as an area that's more interactive for our players to check things out with. We wanted storage space for about 1,200 sticks, which is what we got. We wanted to put up an interactive shooting area so our customers could try out some of the product before they bought it. And the most important thing was we wanted to make sure it looked as good as it was functional, and I think we hit that with the final product. To kick off the grand openings, we have Noah Chari and Ryan Donato, two of the younger players from the Bruins, here in the store today signing autographs. I recognize some of these folks. Some of them are coming in just to meet these kids, and I think it's nice. They're both fairly local, so it was nice that they were able to be here today. So.
Donato is a 22-year-old center from Scituate, Massachusetts. He was drafted in the second round of the 2014 NHL draft by the Boston Bruins and played in 12 games for them this past year. Achari is 26 from Johnston, Rhode Island, who also plays center. He scored 10 goals and assisted once in 60 appearances in 2018.
This is our crew. I got 3 hockey players for kids here.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So gotta say hi and tell me.
When I grew up here in Arlington, hockey was the sport. It still is. It was one of the hockey towns of Massachusetts. But Arlington and the touching towns, very strong hockey community. And we've been here since 1980, so we've got a very strong connection with the community, hockey community, and the Arlington community.
Sports Etc. plans to be a part of the future of hockey as well.
We now have 3 interactive custom fit stations where someone who has a foot that may not be in the norm can come in, and it utilizes 3D printer technology so it can build a skate around a person's foot. It's a little bit prohibitively expensive at this point in time, but for someone who's a difficult fit, it is something that is next level that we're doing already that most stores are not into yet. So.
Sam Backerman, Arlington Public News.
Summer's warm weather has arrived, and with it come lots of outdoor activities and events. Here's a look at what's coming up around town.
Join the Friends of Spy Pond Park for Cleanup Day on Saturday, June 23rd. Your help is welcome anytime between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Bring your own tools or borrow theirs. Help eliminate invasive species and reestablish native plants. For more information, visit friendsofspypondpark.org, find them on their Facebook page, or or head on down to the canopy by the boat ramp at 50 Pond Lane for a day of both giving back and fun. June is Pride Month. The Robbins Library is celebrating on Thursday, June 28th with author Sue Katz. Katz is a journalist and author who has written books such as Lillian in Love and Lillian's Last Affair. She's also an activist and pioneer in the local LGBTQ community. Come listen to Katz discuss her story and the growing LGBTQ movement. For more information, visit robbinslibrary.org. Looking for a laugh? Come on down to the Arlington Art Lounge in the Heights on Friday, June 29th. Their monthly comedy showcase will feature 8 local comedians. You're sure to be in for a night of fun without breaking the bank. Tickets are just $10. Visit arlingtonartlounge.com for more information.
Remembrance and strength. Those are the 2 major themes coming out of this year's Relay for Life. The walk to raise money for the American Cancer Society honored survivors while remembering those who have died from the disease. They include young adults who once walked the relay at Arlington High School themselves. Here's a look at this year's relay held Saturday, June 9th.
You have made this one of the most successful Relay for Life before we even started. So a round of applause to all of you.
People are living longer with cancer than ever before, and they're living better than they used to live. And in fact, there are now over 15 million survivors with this diagnosis in the country.
So I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm really happy to have support from all my daughter's friends.
We came out here to support the survivors and everyone else who's struggling with the disease.
We came out here to support especially Catherine Malatesta and my dad, who is also a survivor.
Cancer is such a bad disease and a lot of people struggle from it, so it's really great that Arlington can come together as a community and really raise a lot of money for such a good cause.
Tonight, on behalf of my family, I have the honor of presenting the Catherine Malatesta Positive Spirit Award. This award is given to someone who has approached Relay with the gusto and passion that Catherine gave to everything she did and to everyone she met. There is no better person to receive this award than Deanne Leiden.
This was the 18th year of Arlington's Relay for Life, which raised over $130,000 for the American Cancer Society.
Thank you for joining Arlington Public News as we explore events and issues affecting Arlington. Check out our latest segments on the web at news.acmi.tv.
And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Arlington Public.
I'm Carla Dorado.
And I'm Paul Werlin. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.